There are multiple motivations, and it depends from person to person. But for me, partially it was because when I joined the union, you can't have the same name as a pre-existing actor, and there were my birth name, which is Matt Miller. There were like 7 other variations of Matt Miller in the actual database. So there was like Matt K. Miller, Matt L. Miller, Matt. It was just ridiculous. So I had to choose something that was different and kind of stuck out. And also, Matt Mercer sounds more interesting, I guess, than Miller, which is a good name, but it's less likely to catch attention. It sounded unique. Mercer was my family name 4 generations back, so it was still technically in the family, and it was close enough to my original name where my ear would pick it up if I heard it. So that was kind of my idea behind choosing it. So that's kind of how Matt Mercer came about. When I was a younger kid, I always had an interest in it. I grew up loving Warner Brothers cartoons, Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, all the old school classic Warner Brothers and Disney stuff. So I've always had a fascination. I remember in 4th grade, we were told to do biography reports on, people in history that affected you. They weren't in like Abraham Lincoln, Washington, because you're kids and you just kind of use whatever's handed to you. I did Mel Blanc, who voiced all the Warner Brothers cartoons, like classic era. So I guess that was when I first really noticed that I took a serious interest in that world. When I decided to pursue it, though, was many years later, about 2006 or so. I'd done small pieces here and there, background voices, one-off characters that I met through circumstance and people in the industry that I'd kind of just crossed paths with. But I was getting enough work on the side that I decided, let me go ahead and try this while I was still young and didn't have the responsibilities of like a family and a mortgage and all these things that would make it a little more difficult to take that risky plunge. So I saved a little money, quit my job, and lived in a tiny studio apartment in North Hollywood, creatively flavoring ramen for dinner, and decided to give it a shot. And I pushed really hard. It took a lot of workshops to continue to hone my craft after years of community theater and other acting classes. Got involved in improvisation, performed there for a while, and started really pushing myself as an actor for a living. And slowly over time began to build some momentum, began to network properly, got myself a good agent, and so far so good. It's funny, I still have screen caps in my bank account back in 2008 and 2009 in March. And they're both like, one was at 35 cents and one was at negative $30. Like, there were some scary times really trying for this career, but I was really adamant to at least give it a good shot. So if it didn't work out, at least I know I tried and I wouldn't have that regret going down the line. But it was a few years later I realized that I was able to upgrade into a nicer place with my girlfriend as we just started dating. I realized that I was now in a more comfortable living space than my parents were. And that was, a lot of hard work. I was constantly trying to make this career blossom. And I reached a point where I realized I was comfortable. I wasn't constantly in fear of having to afford food at the end of the month, or having to, pawn things for gas money to get to an audition. Those are all realities that I faced through most of, growing up with my parents, who were kind of, financial struggle was a part of life. And so pursuing this, it was not unfamiliar territory, but it was the first time in my life I realized that I was comfortable and I could help other people. I had friends that would hit, tax season and couldn't pay out their debts, and I could help them. And they just came back when they could. And that was the first time I really realized that I had made a career out of this and could do this for a living. For now and hopefully forever. No, I had a backup plan. My job before I pursued voiceover was I worked in the video game industry on the development side. So like out of high school, my first job was doing QA, game testing, which sounds such like a fun thing to do, and except when you're a gamer, when you're playing 10, 12 hours a day the same game for a year in a row, you want to pull your hair out and bury yourself in the desert. So, but I worked up through QA, got into production, began to associate produce and produce some video games. I got to work for Sony Santa Monica Studio for God of War 1 and 2, for the localization QA manager, and then at Infinity Ward working on Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I got to be the QA manager for those, and then worked as associate producer briefly before I left the company. So my fallback was, if worst comes to worst, I still have enough history and credits in the video game industry to go back into the dev side. I just didn't want to. I have an illness that if I don't level something up within a short period of time, I go crazy. I need some sort of character advancement. I need there to be like some experience gain, or like equipment upgrades, some sort of new ability that I can unlock. I have, it's a sickness, man. I've had it since I was a kid. So RPGs are my mainstay, and off and on World of Warcraft has had me time and time again. The new expansion right now is really good, although I'm, as an adult, much easier for me to not disappear for weeks at a time. I say that now. But yeah, love RPGs. Right now I'm playing the Dragon Age Inquisition, playing Evolve. Those are good friends of mine. I love fighting games as well.
Have you tried Eve?
Eve Online? Nah, one MMO was enough for me. I heard it was well, that one too, because I like the whole space sci-fi element, like the combat. I have friends who played it, and I watched them play it, but it was so deep that I knew I couldn't. It would be too dangerous. I paint miniatures. I play War Machine, which is like a tabletop kind of fantasy steampunk game, kind of like Warhammer style. So that I find it's a nice Zen aspect of just painting small miniatures that I enjoy. Other than that, I will work on world building for the D&D campaign that I Dungeon Master for, because I'm a huge nerd. And I'll go out with my girlfriend, museums. There's a lot of really cool museums in LA that have, cycling through exhibits. We'll go hiking. So you have to get outside eventually. I was an indoor kid growing up, but I love the outdoors. On occasion, you get out and actually see the world. That's why I like LA. You definitely pay for the fact that you can drive to any topography. Within an hour, hour and a half, you could be at the beach, you could be on a snow-covered mountain, you could be in a lush forest, you could be in a desert landscape. Like you can hit up all those places within driving distance from your home. And so it would be bad if I didn't make use of that. And for me too, as such a game-centric person, you need that connection with nature, I think, to stay mentally healthy too. Because it's a beautiful world out there, and there's no reason not to forget about that. Yes, I do. I got 3. Because it's hard for me to pick. I'll make it quick. Maniac Mansion, I think, would be a great game to re-up for the modern audiences. Great point-and-click adventure game from LucasArts back in the day. I think that would really be great to play. And if I could voice a character in there, it'd probably be Weird Dead. It'd be fun. Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII was a great character that I've loved for a long time. And George Newbern does a great job, but for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. I would be down to take over. But the real one, and I guess this would be my number 1 now that I think about it, is if they ever redid or did a continuation of Chrono Trigger, I want to be Magus. Magus is my favorite characters, and to be able to bring him into the voice realm would be so awesome.